welcome to Unbound Wisdom. My name is Leah, and today we are talking about signs in our current life that we can recognize which are pointing us back to prior incarnations. What I notice is that there are markers all around us, all the time in our daily life, that can point to significant past incarnations that we are meant to tap into for the future growth of our soul. It's almost as if our soul has placed these markers, these signposts or breadcrumbs for us to follow in order for us to receive these packets of information, which we integrate and we draw from our prior experiences in order to further our soul evolution in this lifetime. So a lot of people ask me about the veil of forgetfulness, and this is a phenomenon that we all experience when we incarnate. We forget, for the most part, all of our past experiences. And I just had a lady the other day say, this is so unfair because she's had many lifetimes with many skills and many abilities, and it seems unfair to her that she wouldn't be able to remember all of them readily right now. And I can see where she's coming from, but I also feel like the veil of forgetfulness is actually very, very important, because on a soul level, we know what we want to accomplish in this lifetime. So it's necessary to forget most of the things from the past consciously. Imagine how overwhelming it would be if you could remember 200 lifetimes and they were all in your human mind right now. It would be highly overwhelming. It's like our soul wants us to reconstruct our ego structure so that we have the experiences that we're meant to experience for the growth that our soul wants in this lifetime. So it's very important that we have somewhat of a filter so that all of the past experiences aren't constantly flooding our mind. It'd be highly distracting. What I do believe, however, is it's not like this veil of forgetfulness keeps all the memories out. The way I see it, there are certain markers, which I want to go over today, that can give us clues to these past incarnations that we're meant to remember. And if we're able to tap into these markers or these clues, we can intuitively understand more about what that past life can bring to our daily life now. So it's less about kind of remembering what we used to be in the past and more about being able to draw upon those lessons and those experiences and those abilities and even the energetic imprints that we may have had in a prior life. It's more about having a connection with them where we're able to re-embody them in our current life. So what I have done is I've compiled a list of markers that are very common for me, and also I've noticed in my clients that once we are aware of them, we can tap into that intuitive knowledge. We can consciously connect to those past lifetimes that are coming through to us in so many different ways that we don't even realize, in order to really integrate whatever information we are meant to integrate so that it can propel us forward, pushing the edge of our soul growth in this lifetime, and maybe even, making our lives a little better or being able to contribute more to humanity. So the very first one that I would say is to ask yourself if you have an affinity or a deep love or a certain resonance with a time period, a specific time period, or a specific place, or even a historical person. Most of us feel very drawn to a certain era of time. This could be like, maybe you've always loved ancient Egypt and it's always fascinated you. So you've studied about it. Maybe you've watched some documentaries, whatever it is. Maybe it's ancient Greece. Maybe it's the Viking time period and you watch every single show that ever comes out regarding Vikings. Whatever the time period may be, it's highly likely that you are drawn to it because you've had past incarnations in that time era. And the point would be to allow yourself to deeply tap into the feelings that you feel when you're watching those shows or when you're studying or learning more about that time period, because there are likely clues that you can draw forth and incorporate into your daily life now, into your now lifetime. And the person as well. If there is a historical figure that you feel deeply connected to, it's likely that they carry an energy signature that feels very familiar to you because you were also incarnated during that time. I can speak for myself. I had an affinity even when I was a little girl with a general from the Civil War. And I remember making a clay sculpture of this gentleman, and I was like 8. And what 8-year-old wants to make a clay bust of a Civil War soldier or Civil War general? But I did. For some reason, I loved this man. But I felt deeply connected to him somehow, and I made a clay bust of this general. Later on in life, I was able to have some very deep past life memories of being incarnated during this time period. So it would make sense that I felt a closeness to this general. So really, if there's anything coming through for you where you love a certain time period and you don't exactly understand why, it's highly likely that you have ties to that period of time. And there may well be clues that you can draw forth from that in, pulling the threads of that lifetime so that you can unravel it a little bit more, remember a little bit more of the past lifetime, and even understand more about why it's relevant to you today. Second marker. When you go to a new place, maybe you go on a holiday or you're just traveling and you go through a new place where you've never been before, but you somehow feel at home. This is a huge clue, because what happens is our etheric body, our energy body, resonates still with the land. So if you go to a place where you've never ever been in this lifetime, but you feel like you're at home, it's likely that your etheric body is recognizing it as home, recognizing it as I've been here before. That's a huge clue that there are probably some past life ties to that area of land. Okay, number 3. This is the question I ask my clients all the time. If you could go to the museum, let's say a history museum for today. If you could go to a history museum, what exhibit would you spend the most time in? Where do you feel the most drawn? This also gives us clues about potential past lifetimes that you may have had. Because again, you're feeling drawn to the energy signature of either the artifacts that are there or the exploration of that era. For me, I love going to Native American museums. I love it. And I have no real reason except I have this deep connection with Native American culture. I love studying about it, and every single chance I get, I go to the Native American exhibit. And I drag my family, and luckily my kids they're troopers. They're good. They're good sports about it. But later on in life, again, I was able to uncover several lifetimes as a Native American. And it completely explains why I've been drawn to this culture and these artifacts and these stories, historical stories about certain Native Americans in certain tribes, explaining exactly why I love that part of the museum. So that's what I would ask you for number 3. If you go to the museum, what are you drawn to? Okay, number 4, dreams. This one's a big one. We all have past lifetime dreams. All of us do. Whether we remember them or not, we're often processing past memories during our dream time. So if you have a recurring dream where you are shown a certain timeline, and then you have a recurring dream about the same timeline and maybe a little bit more of the story is added on next time, this is a huge clue that you're being shown past life memories. Also, if the dream is very vivid, where it feels so real, another sign that it's a past life memory coming through in your dreams. Also, if you wake up and you feel this huge emotional connection to the dream, a huge emotional response that doesn't really make sense, it is likely that you are remembering memories from past lives. All things to pay attention to, all markers, potential markers that you can tap into to understand more about where you have been and also what you're supposed to be doing with these memories, right? Okay, number 5, deja vu. There are lots of speculated causes about why we have deja vu. I believe one of them is having some past life memories come back to us into our consciousness. So if we were to look at a picture, maybe, or maybe we're watching a movie or something, and we have that feeling of deja vu, like, I feel like I've been here. And it almost spurs that, it's almost a dreamlike memory that comes back to us, where we feel like we have been there, though we've never been there, right? It's a really trippy feeling, but it is what I refer to as psychic bleed-throughs, which are those times in which we are actually tapping into, somewhat tapping into the Akashic records, but remembering past occurrences, and they're coming through into our current consciousness, where we can't necessarily categorize them as, yes, I remember this happening, but it's almost like having memories of our earlier life, but we just can't catalog them in our human mind as to when these events happened. Huge for people. These are psychic bleed-throughs, and these are instances of us remembering our past incarnations. Okay, number 6. What did you love as a child? Usually around the age 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, the veil of forgetfulness will settle over us. Also around that age, usually we begin to be a little bit more programmed by society. So if we can think back to those early years, what did we love to do as a child? It usually points us back to some past life memories. Whether it was, playing outside all the time. Maybe we had lots of lifetimes where we were outdoors all the time. Maybe we loved trains and we had some connection with the railroads. Maybe we loved playing Vikings, right? Whatever it was, when we were very little, what were we drawn to? That gives us clues about what we may have done in the past, because we were likely drawn to those things because we were remembering prior incarnations and somewhat playing them out, in the childlike, innocent way, replaying those memories in a sense. So it can be super helpful to think about what you've done as a child in order to point you to what you probably did in the past. Okay, number 7. Your current hobbies can be clues as well, or your natural gifts or your talents. Think of something that you're just naturally, innately good at. It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be, I have an affinity for martial arts and I'm very good at it. That's not me, but somebody might. It's likely that these skills are coming from past lifetimes because we've honed them over lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Maybe we're really amazing pianists, and it's likely that we're tapping into our past life gifts. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe you have a green thumb and no matter what you plant, it grows. Likely you have cultivated this gift over several incarnations and you're able to bring those gifts through today. All right, number 8. This is our final one. This is really tapping into our physical sensations in our body to understand more about our past lives. So it's less about thinking and more about feeling in our body and being able to interpret our physical senses. For instance, music. When we listen to certain songs, does it bring up a feeling that might be attributed to a past life? Or does it even bring up certain memories? If we put a song on and we sit in meditation, does it bring up any memories for us? I have a friend who has listened to, I don't even know how many times, I could never count, it's so high, the King Arthur soundtrack. Because when he listens to it, it brings him back in some ways to prior lifetimes that he had during that era. He feels deeply connected to that era and he listens to that soundtrack on repeat because it brings him back into that feeling of being there. Also, smells. This is huge too. If we smell something that we may not even recognize in this lifetime, but it feels very familiar to us, it's likely that it's coming through from a past life memory. It could even be something as simple as jumping in the ocean, and it reminds you of another time that you've been in the ocean where you actually feel the waves on your body, or you feel the sand beneath your toes. It's really just tapping into the physical sensations of the body to see if it reminds you of anything that you've done in the past, not in this lifetime, but in a prior lifetime. So the more awareness that we have around these markers, the more we're going to be able to intuitively tap into these prior instances. And I genuinely believe that we have these affinities or these draws or these pulls towards certain things in our life because they are encoded with these remembrances. I believe that it happens to us all, whether we're aware of it or not. And my sense of it is, it's our soul's way of communicating with us those important things that we need to know in order to develop fully in this lifetime. So I hope that this was helpful to you today. My main goal in bringing all this through was just so that you could understand we have access to tons and tons of information about our past lives. We just have to really pay attention to what is going on in our current life. Because I believe that these memories aren't just meant to entertain us. I really believe that there's gold that lies within these memories that we are meant to pull forward into this current incarnation. So I hope this was helpful to you today. I have recorded a guided visualization in our own Akashic records that you can use if you want to further investigate some of these markers. I'll link it below. And what you'll do is you'll use the energy of your own Akashic records as well as the wisdom of your higher self to kind of pull the threads that you've uncovered regarding some of these markers. If any of them sound very familiar to you, or if you can say, oh my gosh, yes, I've always loved ancient Greece, you can go and do this Akashic visualization to see if you can get any deeper memories that are specific to the lifetime that you might have had. If you have any questions or would like clarification about this, please reach out to me. I am always available to help, and I appreciate you so much for being here today. Thank you. Until next time.